McLaren pick up from where they left off in Hungary by topping the opening day of the Belgian Grand Prix with a 1-2. Elsewhere, Max Verstappen had a setback confirmed, and Alpine shocked, well, everyone once again. From RacingNews365.com, my name is Nick Golding, and I'm joined, as always, by lead editor Ian Parks. Ian, let's start with McLaren because they have very much picked up from where they left off in Hungary. This time, vice versa. They flipped it around. Lando Norris was fastest on the opening day, ahead of Oscar Piastri.
Hi, Nick. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. As you can see behind me, little Ferris wheel going on behind. Not quite the one that they have at Suzuka, but it's the best that Spa-Francorchamps can do anyway. As you say, Nick, yeah, McLaren started today, this Belgian Grand Prix weekend, where they have left off in Hungary. Once they're in qualifying there at the Hungaroring, as we know. Once they're in the race, lots of contentious issues around that. They're going to be hoping for a far simpler weekend this weekend. And at the moment, it started really well for them. We've had a dry day with the two practice sessions. Max Verstappen on top in FP1, but the McLaren's can bounce him back in FP2. Lando Norris 0.2 of a second ahead of his teammate Oscar Piastri, with Max Verstappen a very close 0.002 of a second behind the Australian. The fly in the ointment, however, is that, whilst as I say, it's been a lovely dry day, okay, overcast, but nevertheless, we've got some good track running tomorrow, and I know normally my weather predictions have always been rubbish, but tomorrow, and I make no bones about that, tomorrow we are forecast a lot of rain, so we can expect a wet FP3 and a wet qualifying. Please do not hold me to that, folks, if it proves to be incorrect, but nevertheless, it is to be quite different tomorrow. But today's running is that batteries should not be wasted because we are due for a dry, sunny day on Sunday. So they would have gathered lots of good information from today's two practice sessions. However, it is threatening to be completely different tomorrow, a whole different scenario. Let's see what unfolds on Saturday.
And that's the really interesting point, and that today is actually quite useful for the race on Sunday, which is expected to be dry, but as we know, with Spa, the weather can change so quickly, whereas Saturday, throughout the day, is expected to be wet. So who knows what the order's going to be, because tomorrow morning is the first time they're going to get any wet running in FP3. But let's talk about Max Verstappen, because he was exceptional in FP1, topped the session by half a second. We all thought for a moment, okay, Max is back. And of course, whilst he was third in FP2, was still right on it, both in terms of one lap pace and long run pace. However, he does have a setback confirmed for this weekend, a 10-place grid penalty. He's taken one before here a couple of years ago and still came through to win. But given the strength of McLaren, a victory does look like somewhat of a tall order unless he claims pole on Saturday.
Yeah, 2 years ago, Max took a penalty here. It was a complete power unit change. Now, he qualified on pole, or he set the fastest time, should I say. He didn't qualify on pole. He set the fastest time in qualifying. But because so many other people took power unit penalties that weekend, he actually started from 14th on the grid. His confidence that year was such, he won the race by just under 18 seconds over his teammate Sergio Perez, and we'll come on to him in a little while as well. And Perez that day started second, so that gives you some idea as to the power and dominance of the RP18 2 years ago. This time around, of course, we've seen it is very, very different. Max started this season brilliantly, and if he had that car going into this weekend's race, then you could argue that he'd be in a very good position to confirm wherever he might start, 11th, 12th, 13th, probably at worst, and go on to win. But because McLaren has come so much to the fore over the last 6-7 Grand Prix, it is likely to run up against a pile wall at some stage, even if he does manage to make his way through the field over the opening first half of the Grand Prix, as you would expect him to do, because he has looked really strong. As you say, FP1 looked great on the hard tyre to start with, then looked really good on the softs. But then FP2, we saw the true pace of McLaren. The key to a lap around here, Nick, is that balance between sectors 1 and 3, where they are the two fastest parts of the circuit, and sector 2, where you have the corners. So do you up the pace in sectors 1 and 3, knowing that you are going to wear your tyres far quicker and make yourself more susceptible in sector 2? Or do you go for the downforce that's required through sector 2, but then making yourself more vulnerable in those quick sections? What we saw from Lando Norris in particular was that he managed to get good balance across all 3 sectors. He ended up fastest for sector 2, the more twisty section, and fastest in sector 3, the more of a high-speed section. So whatever Max and Red Bull managed to come up with overnight going into qualifying, and as I say, who knows what might transpire out of qualifying, bear in mind the conditions. Regardless of what the conditions are on Sunday, he is going to find it very difficult to come through the field when he hits the McLarens, I'm sure. As I say, on Sunday, no matter where he starts in that mid-grid section, which of course around Spa-Francorchamps can be quite tricky to negotiate, especially the opening last circuit, which seen many an incident there in the past, of course.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you mentioned at the start of that bit, Sergio Perez. Now, of course, with Max Verstappen starting at best P11, should he claim pole, with McLaren being so strong, Red Bull needs Sergio Perez this weekend. We spoke about the importance of him being good given the pressure he's under in terms of the performance clauses in his contract. It was a difficult start to the weekend. On a weekend he doesn't need to be difficult. Complained of FP1, of just feeling uncomfortable in the car, and ended FP2 down in 9th. A really, really far from optimal day for the Red Bull driver.
1 second behind Max Verstappen. That gives you some idea of just where he is at the moment. He knows he needs an absolutely perfect weekend this season to ensure whatever talks take place over the summer break about his future, to ensure that he's got a future beyond the summer break. As I say, he needs his absolutely perfect weekend. And starting off on Friday, 1 second behind your teammate is not what he would have wished for. If that continues going into this weekend, then it really does not bode well for him. We've still got Saturday and Sunday. Let's see what transpires. Yeah. Maybe Red Bull can make necessary changes, because when we spoke to Checo on Thursday in his afternoon media session, he did talk about certain changes being made on his car coming to this weekend, which he hoped, having tested them in the simulator, would lend itself to a far better experience. Bearing in mind, he'd done reasonably well coming out of the Hungarian Grand Prix, a recovery drive following his qualifying crash on Saturday. As I say, did do well in the race, managed to get himself up to 7, looked a lot more comfortable, was hoping to build on that coming into this weekend, but not a good start, not what he would have wanted, as I say, for what is a really crucial weekend for the Mexican driver.
And a wet Saturday kind of works completely against him. One team, though, who did actually look surprisingly good today compared to recent races were Ferrari. Ended today, Friday, in 4th and 5th. Charles Leclerc in 4th, Carlos Sainz in 5th. Very promising start to the weekend for Ferrari, who actually looked better than Mercedes.
Yeah, they certainly seem to have the edge over Mercedes at the moment. Mercedes, they not a great session for them. FP2 in particular, Lewis didn't really manage to hook up his soft tyre run, finished down in 10 at 1.2 seconds off Lando Norris, but I think there's a lot more to come from Mercedes. But touching on, as you say, Ferrari, the suggestion is that they've managed to get rid of that horrible bouncing with those SF24s, which has come into play since the introduction of the upgrade ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix that we've spoken so much about in various other updates and our podcast, of course. So if they've managed to certainly alleviate that, certainly get on top of that, and that does appear to be the case from what we've seen so far, then they look in a reasonably good position, certainly to be in the top, maybe second row, third row, potentially ahead of the Mercedes at this stage anyway. But certainly right now, they've got a good shout of picking up some decent points this weekend. But as I say, who knows how things might materialise. Bearing in mind, we are looking at a wet Saturday.
And just finally, moving on to Alpine, who've kind of become known now, I think, for making big announcements during the Belgian Grand Prix. Obviously, last season it saw Otmar Zafnauer obviously leave. It's now been confirmed that Bruno Famin, the team's team principal, will be stepping down from that role after this weekend. And then Bruno himself, during the press conference later on, then made quite a staggering revelation himself and hinted towards an upcoming change for its powertrain supplier, Renault.
Yeah, remarkable turn of events. I remember being here exactly 1 year ago, sitting in the Friday afternoon team principal's press conference, and it was Bruno Famin who then literally an hour, just a couple of hours beforehand, had taken up this interim role, bearing in mind Otmar Zafnauer and sporting director Alain Permain had effectively been sacked by the team. Quite a remarkable turn of events that 12 months on, here we are, Bruno Famin again sat in the press conference announcing his departure as team principal. Basically, there's also been revealed that he will be taking on the very operation which is now going to become more of a hub for Renault's other motorsport operations. And the decision has been taken, a project has been proposed that it will no longer be a supplier of Formula One power units, or power units to Formula One, let's put it that way. So quite a major change going on behind the scenes. It has been anticipated, or it had been anticipated that that was the case, that Renault were going to take this step back. And we did know that discussions had been taking place behind the scenes between Alpine representatives, now no longer, of course, Bruno Famin, and power unit manufacturers with regard to a supply. The team is due to continue in Formula One as Alpine, but it will now be Alpine Mercedes, most likely, maybe an Alpine Ferrari, who knows? Highly unlikely, I don't think. But we are looking at Alpine Mercedes along those lines, but like we have Williams Mercedes, Aston Martin Mercedes, etc. Bearing in mind, those two teams are supplied by the German manufacturer. So that's what we're looking at the minute. But yes, Bruno going, Renault departing, quite a major change. And it's not really that Formula One would have wanted. Bearing in mind, we've got these 2026 power unit regulations coming in. The hope was that would attract power unit suppliers, not all of a sudden a known OEM depart the scenes. We've got Audi coming in, of course. We've got Honda returning. So it's not all doom and gloom, but the fact Renault are leaving, it's not really the picture that F1 would have wanted at this particular stage, that's for sure.
Definitely, and especially on the weekend where they're rocking a Deadpool Wolverine-inspired livery. Of course, Ryan Reynolds, the actor, has obviously part of a share in the team. And actually, it was a very positive day for Esteban Ocon, who it was in the top 10. Just go through the top 10 from Friday. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri first and second, Max Verstappen third, Leclerc and Sainz in fourth and fifth, George Russell sixth, then Esteban Ocon in seventh, Kevin Magnussen in eighth, Sergio Perez and Lewis Hamilton completing the top 10. Ian, just to finish things up, as you can see, I think it looks like rain Is it actually raining now?
Well, it's not raining. It is due to start raining in the middle of the night. So I'm expecting to wake up to a very wet Spa-Francorchamps tomorrow, that's for sure.
So with that in mind then, it is bold prediction time, and it's going to be the boldest of predictions, given that tomorrow is expected to be where I'll give you a second because I'm going to go first because I've got, I think, a really good one. And having spoken about Sergio Perez and the fact that Verstappen's got a penalty, I think Max Verstappen will still start ahead of Sergio Perez. So by my logic, I think Perez is probably going to be out in Q1 or Q2. And then Verstappen is going to take his 10-place grid penalty and still be starting ahead of him. Perez in the rain, the way he started today, I've just got the feeling that Saturday's either going to be the day that kind of makes him or breaks him in terms of his F1 career.
That's quite a bold prediction, Nick. I don't think I'm going to be able to top that. Where do I go from there, to be honest, pal? If it does rain, I'm fully expecting the Mercedes to be a lot more comfortable than they have today. And I'm going to go because McLaren just looks so strong, I'm pretty certain, wet or dry, they're going to lock out the front row again. So I'm going to go Mercedes to be ahead of the Ferraris.
Oh, not a bad one. Not a bad prediction. Of course, those who are watching this F1 update, be sure to comment your predictions in the comment section below. Myself and Ian will be back on Saturday after qualifying for the qualifying F1 update. We will see you tomorrow. See you later.
Take care, folks.